You're listening to the Main Event Moto podcast.
Time for 171, Joe. How you doing today?
171.
You looking good with your A's hat on, tight black t-shirt.
So tight.
Is that tight because you're swole, or is it tight because you had Carl's Jr. for lunch?
Shit, it's Carl's Jr. and swole.
Oh, both. The double whammy.
Medium.
The double Western Bako.
Yeah.
That's what we'll call that tight black shirt. That's your double Western Bako.
Yeah.
It's going to be a good show. I want to give a huge shout out to the sponsors that make this happen. Fly Racing. Ooh, big show for Fly Racing. We got Jason Thomas coming on. Mika Metals, No Toil, EMT Racing, Viral Moto, Olme Creations. Thank you guys so much. Of course, motosport.com, All American Chevy of Killeen, Screen Printing Done. What's up, Neil? Guts Racing, Scott USA, DRS Suspension with Race Tech, Blenzall, and Evil Coffee. And Joe, the Evil Coffee has arrived. I have not sampled yet.
Uh-oh.
It has arrived. There will be a full sampling from me and Margaret, my wife. That's her official name.
Stop it.
That's her real name. We're beefing right now a little bit, so I'm going to call her Margaret. The coffee's arrived, and the taste test will be going on tomorrow morning at about 6:45 a.m. And I'm stoked. You know I'm a snob, and I'm going to give you an honest breakdown of what they did. I don't even know which one they sent, because Maggie just texted me and said that they sent some, but they have a bunch of them, so I'm not sure which one it is. But next week, you all will know what I think about Evil Coffee. And remember, go to evilcoffeecompany.com and sign up. Subscription-based coffee company. You serious? This is a difficult world. We're all trying to make things simple, and these guys make it that simple. So go to evilcoffeecompany.com, and next week, though, I will give you the rundown on what I think. Joe, it's going to be a good show, though. We got Jason Thomas coming on. Mathis has let me borrow him for a show, so it should be good. He's going to talk about the Fly Racing 2021 launch, but I get into some funny stuff with him, talk about the different colorways, and the cool part for me with gear is knowing that they design this stuff 2 to 3 years out. You know what I mean? They're gambling. They're working on stuff like 3 years from now, which means they have to really, really nail it. And if they don't, that's a big... I mean, think about it. Right now, if you had to do something right now that was going to come out 2 to 3 years from now, a little scared. You never know what the world's going to turn into in 2 to 3 years,
especially
dude.
nowadays.
Now, it's crazy. You're gambling. So we talk about that. We talk about some of the improvements because they're still innovating the gear lines, the Formula helmet. They got more options to it now. We talk about him pushing back because it's a fight between the sales department and the design department. Because design, they're artists, right? They're creative artists. Are you and me? Are we creative artists?
Sometimes.
We try, but they're artists. They're actually paid to design, and then you have a sales team that has to sell it, and if the sales team's like, I don't like this, then it's hard for them to sell, but the art guys are like, but I like it, but you know what I mean? So he talks about that push and pull inside the building on what it takes to actually launch a new colorway, a new gear line, improvements. He talks about the new pant. They did something to the light pant that he said he fought hard back on, but then they won the battle, and he tells a story on how they won the battle. So, it's cool. It was a cool interview, and Jason was awesome, as always. And, so we'll get into that right now. Fly Racing, again, shout out to them for being a part of Main Event Moto. Mika Metals, No Toil, EMT Racing, Viral Moto, Olme Creations, motosport.com. All-American Chevy of Killeen, Screen Printing Done, Guts Racing, Scott USA, DRS Suspension with Race Tech, Blenzall, and that Evil Coffee Company, evilcoffeecompany.com. Thank you guys so much for being a part of Main Event Moto. Joe, let's go to a commercial break. We'll come back with Jason Thomas.
Main Event Moto.
There's a reason I run DRS Suspension and Race Tech hard parts with Mika Metals chains, bars, and sprockets on Evans 65. First off, DRS suspension settings work everywhere. I haven't changed a clicker since I put them on. Maybe it's the internals from Race Tech that give it that extra something.
American-made products with a 100% guarantee. You don't see that every day.
Yeah, the DRS Race Tech combo works for me. And what can I say about Mika?
First off, they've been with us since the beginning.
The quality of their bars is top of the line, and Mika is the only chain and sprocket combo I run. Motoheads, get with the program. It's DRS Suspension, Race Tech, Mika Metals.
Say it again.
It's DRS Suspension, Race Tech, Mika Metals. Is that good, Joe?
Yeah.
I love when NorCal companies take the world by storm. Guts Racing seat covers and no-toil filters are made right here at home, but their products travel the country and world on some of the baddest dudes' bikes in pro racing.
Who runs Guts?
Too many factory teams to list, Joe.
Who runs No Toil?
Well, it's the only filter Chad Reed will run. Guts and No Toil make only the best. So visit gutsracing.com and notoil.com and step up your game, Motoheads.
Main Event Moto Podcast.
And joining us for the first time on Main Event Moto, Jason Thomas. And Jason, I got to say right up front, I would invite you a lot more, but I just don't want to get Steve all upset and all mouthy. I know he's already mouthy, but I didn't want to dip in. You know what I'm saying? I would invite you way more, but I'm glad you finally came on.
Well, it's funny. I used to kind of have this pulp-only policy, and it really was because of the explosion of podcasts, and I was just getting asked all the time. And as you know, like we almost have a show every day during the season.
Oh, yeah.
And it gets a little overwhelming, and I don't want to start to pick and choose. I don't really feel like that's fair to be like, yeah, I'll go on yours, but no, I won't go on yours. So I kind of just made the pulp stuff the only one I would do, and obviously, Fly Racing is very committed to the Pulp MX effort. And then as my role has expanded a bit at Fly Racing, I wasn't really able to hold that kind of line anymore, and I just had to branch out. And I'm much more media relations involved than I ever was before. So yeah, I need to be on every show that'll have me. That's right. And Main Event Moto is a Fly Racing show. So it is. Tell Steve, too bad. He's been cool. Bad. He gets it. I know. It's freed up a lot of time. And obviously we're recording this at night. But a lot of my workday now is lining up and doing things like this. So that's actually fine. I don't mind doing it if it's during the day and at work. Totally cool. Where before I was looking at spreadsheets and doing all these things that aren't near as fun as jumping on the phone and talking about moto. Heck yeah. Well, all right. Well, now that it's just you and me and no Steve, let's talk the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence without interruption. I'm just kidding. But hey, I'm pumped to have you on. For the first time again. It's exciting. I know Fly's got the new 2021 stuff coming out, so we're going to talk about a little bit of that. Well, actually, a lot of bit of that, but I want to start with a question. I saw on Instagram, Dak Prescott, the quarterback of my Dallas Cowboys, on the Fly Instagram page. First off, is Dak really think he's getting $40 million a year from the Cowboys? That's my first question. Second, how did that whole thing come about? I think he's getting 45. Oh, my gosh, man. He probably doesn't think he's getting 40. I'm going to tell you, look, I love Dak Prescott, and I love the Cowboys, but there's just, if you look back in history, winning quarterbacks at the Super Bowl, their salaries aren't that big usually. They're usually either on their rookie deal like Mahomes or Wilson, or it's Brady taking a cut. You get into the $40, $45 million range, that's not much money for the rest of your team. They're really close, and I'm a little upset with Dak. I think his agent is being a little bit stiff on the price. That's just me. It's just me. Yeah, I'm with you. But yeah, as far as like our involvement, we were actually asked to be involved, and one of our reps working with one of his WPS dealers had a connection to Dak, and he was getting a new side-by-side. And, a lot of these guys, they have interest outside of football during the off season. Right. And Dak wanted to get this side-by-side, and we thought it would be, as a company, a great opportunity to hook Dak up with a helmet, for one. And these guys are used to getting everything free. So I'm sure on one hand, he was like, yeah, cool. But we wanted to make it as special as possible and make it look as much like the Cowboys helmet as we could, even though it's not exactly the same color. But he seemed to respond really well to it. And I think really the proof of it was allowing us to take pictures and post pictures and do all the things we did. They don't typically do stuff like that. No, right? Like they would never go for that, or they would send you a bill for $50,000 for doing something like that, Right. So we were super excited about it, and there were no strings on our end. We were just excited to be able to, for one, get him in a helmet that was super safe, and also, any residual cross marketing that we could do, all the better. That's rad, man. When I saw that, I was like, that hit home. You know what I'm saying? They got the Formula helmet out there. It's freaking Dak Prescott.
Hey, if you're going to have a disappointing season year in and year out, the least you can do is have a great helmet.
That's right. That's right. If you're going to let everyone down every year, Jerry, then at least let your guy. Hey, and he's got the freaking black and blue gear that I have. That's the gear that I have. So when I saw that, I was like, it hit home, bro. It hit home. But anyways, that's totally cool. I mean, Fly, you guys are all over the place. Obviously, I know what Fly's been doing over the last few years. You guys have been, full force, wide open, not just innovating with the different looks, but innovating with improving the gear. I'm all in. You sponsor this show. You sponsor my son. And if you want to be technical about it, the only real success I've ever had in my pro racing career was in Fly. I went my whole career, never wore Fly, and then my last year I put it on and I win an Arena Cross regional title, JT. So straight up, I don't know if it was, I might have been the missing link all along.
Well, I don't know that we want to take any credit for that, especially since you were just beating up on a bunch of kids racing that regional series.
Yeah, but, when I would order the gear and you would see the sizes where you like, damn, Daniel needs to go.
Is he ordering stuff for like his dad or like a relative?
Is this? Yeah, this is him. He's putting his name and number on the back of this thing. But I won the title in Fly. Me and the Stank Diggity Dog in 2015. We were rocking it. We had a good look on KTM's, and it was the only year I ever wore Fly. And then I just kept the relationship going. And obviously, you guys helped my son out, which he is super grateful. Did you get his email?
I did. I thought it was actually really well done. And it's written by, how old is he? 8?
10. So
10, sorry.
No, 8.
So, yeah, you're...
Yeah, 8. Hold on. Yeah,
no, 8. You're written by a child, right? But I thought it was really informative. It was really respectful. I thought it was awesome. I wish that more young riders had that insight, and I'm sure you've instilled that in them, to be communicative with sponsors. That's a huge part of the process. And honestly, we have a lot of things coming at us, and we all have jobs to do, just like everybody listening to this does. So for us to be just, even for, if it's 5 minutes, right, to get a little insight and snapshot of what that particular rider's going through, it's going to make the relationship that much closer. And yeah, it's really hard. Obviously with your relationship with us, it makes it a little easier, but right. I can't stress that enough. If you're a parent out there listening to this, have your child do race reports and email them in to your amateur support manager. That goes a long way. I wish I would have done it when I was younger. Well,
that's for me. I in the grand scheme, I had success racing. It wasn't completely unsuccessful, but it wasn't a super successful career. But I have all these relationships that I built, and it's because I took the time. I valued the sponsors so much that I took the time to try to do things like that, because I had to make up for the fact that the results weren't always there. So I figure if he's going to be my offspring, he better do the same. But there is one thing that stood out, the backstory is, I told him, I said, hey, you should write a letter to your sponsors telling him how you did. And I told him the format, so I helped him with that. But he typed word for word himself. But I found it funny, JT, that in the opening paragraph, he blamed his bike. So we have a true dirt bike racer amongst us, because if you come right out of the gate and blame your bike in the first paragraph, you're a true racer.
Hey, he's only watching and learning from what he sees on TV.
That's right. That's what they all say, Dad. They blame their bikes when they don't win. Yep. So, but anyways, all right. So, well, good advice on that to the kids out there and the parents out there. I have parents that hit me up all the time and even ask, and I'll ask you this right off the top. How do you get a Fly racing? Where do you go for sponsorship? So what is Fly's, where is Fly sponsorship available in the world? Is it through Hook It and all those that are out there? How do you guys do your sponsorship?
So we actually don't do Hook It. And the biggest reason is we want to have a hands-on approach. And we feel like if we can have a set of eyeballs internally on every resume that comes in and out the door, then we're really going to be able to discern between those that are really racers and are it's appropriate for race support versus just a customer who would be better served working with a local dealer. Right. And there's a significant difference there, and we really try to protect the dealers in that situation.
Right.
So yeah, thankfully, when I walk into a dealer, I can tell him, like, somebody in our company, a part of our team, has personally looked at every single resume that comes in the door. And I think Hook It is a great program, but I think it's better served for some of the smaller vendors out there that they just don't have the manpower to look through thousands of resumes. So it works for us. And, going back to the point you made with Evan writing that, the better communication. And if the amateur support manager remembers your name just because he's seen these race reports over and over and over, that's only going to help your level of support in the end.
Right.
So yeah, the easiest way, and we're about to venture into resume season, is to email us, and it's race admin, like short for administration. So raceadmin@flyracing.com, and you will get a response one way or another, whether it's a, acceptance or, maybe it's just not the right time, or maybe you're just getting started and we would much rather send you to one of our great WPS dealers. You will get a response. And even if it's not the right time for you, you will be encouraged to use some of our fly bucks, which is basically just a gift certificate. So that's redeemable at any fly dealer. So there's a lot of upside to applying to be a part of the fly racing team.
That's awesome. And I know you guys are huge with your dealers. I mean, all the dealers that I go to, Evan rides for Motorsport Hillsboro up in Oregon. So but then I also am around here at NorCal Motorsports, at Stockton Power Sports. I mean, fly is everywhere. And I always ask this because I know the fly vision, the Western vision, how you guys do things. I always ask, like, how's everything going with West? And I mean, there's a reason why all the dealers love you guys. It's the customer service is off the charts. And even when I had my shop with my dad back, we had a little parts department, and we would only do Western Power Sports. It was just the only one we ever did. So I know how active you guys are, not only as the parent company, but specifically with Fly, which is what you're a part of the most. You guys have a presence like no other. I mean, every dealer I walk into, it's pretty banging. So good job on that. But JT, I want to talk to you about a couple things about the 2021, and I'll go in and out of a few ideas that I had on some questioning. My question, I guess, right off the top is the Formula helmet. On Race Day Live, we pumped it up a bunch. We had you guys on Race Day Live. We've talked about it. I know about it. I've got a couple in my house. I know what you guys invested. But my question is 2021, you've made improvements even to the whole line of the Formula, which I guess my question would be, why did you do that? You already have a helmet that's just banging. You guys are innovating. But then you continue to grow that line and make some modifications for 2021. What are those, and why did you, continue to do that when you already had a helmet that was out there doing so well?
Well, as you know, the Formula is our premium piece in the whole lineup, and just speaking candidly, we have easily $1 million wrapped up in that Formula helmet between R&D and man hours and tooling costs and just everything to get it off the ground. So yeah, of course it's an expensive helmet, and it really falls in line with the top pieces in the market. So for us, this was an opportunity to really expand the customer base. And if you're a family and you're going racing, and maybe you see the benefits of the protection and you really believe in it, but just stretching to $650 for the adult helmet and $599 for the youth, it just wasn't realistic, you know. And you could buy in on every level, but the dollars weren't there, and you couldn't make it work. Well, now we introduced the Formula CC, which CC stands for carbon composite. So you're getting all of the great upside of the Formula. You're getting the Rheon with the advanced impact protection. You're getting the Conehead EPS. You're getting all of the great technology that makes the Formula, what it is. But now we can bring that price point down by offering it in a carbon composite. And for all of you that ever wore an F2 going back several years, that was the same thing. It was a carbon composite weave. And, if you're just looking at it from the outside, you may never know. It's only 50 grams heavier, and you're still getting all the same great protection. So it really is a great option. The retail's $449 for adult and $399 for youth. And we really feel like it's just going to give a lot more people an opportunity to get into that level of protection at just, a discounted price.
Right. For the dummies out there like me, what is that carbon what is that? What is that? There's some things in life that I really don't know about, and that's one of them. What does that even mean?
Yeah, basically it's just a mix. So your formula is full 12K carbon, right? So it's as pure as it comes, just carbon fiber shell. A carbon composite, you start to blend both carbon and some fiberglass. And you keep a lot of the residual benefits, like your weight is super low. But it's not really a compromise on performance. It's just really a tiny compromise on weight. And really just for that premium level customer that wants the best of the best, they want to go full carbon.
Right.
This is just an option if you want to save a little bit of money, but you do believe in the protection. It gives you an option, and then obviously the cost for us to produce comes down a little bit. So we are then able to offer it at a little bit of a discounted price.
I see. Okay, so you got to dumb it down for us dummies out here. Like I said, if it's something I know about, I have this thing, JT. I don't know about you, but if I know about something, I know a lot. Like I'm into it. If I don't know, I don't. And when you start using big words like composite and get all technical on whatever, dude, I'm out, bro. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's really just a blend. You're not pure carbon anymore. You do have some carbon components, but you're also mixing in some fiberglass components as well. So it's just not, it's not the Formula One, Formula helmet anymore. It's a little bit of a blend, but again, the upside is you still have the third lightest helmet on the American market, and you have all of that great protection technology, which is really what the Formula helmet's all about.
Like the internal stuff with the Rheon and all the things that you have, the design. Again, that's where all that research and development, all that money went, was developing the things that actually impact your head when your head hits the ground, right? And that's all the internal part of the helmet.
Yeah, and long term, really, our goal is to keep people as safe as possible, regardless of price point, right? So we have a very long scoped plan to continue to introduce Rheon technology and a lot of the things we've learned into other items. And this Formula CC is the next step of that. And really, if you want to pull back the curtain, you start looking at, okay, why do things take longer? And okay, to tool up a new helmet, and you're really kind of getting in the details of a project, but to tool up a new helmet, you're several $100,000 to buy the tool, build the tool, and to apply it.
Right.
Now you start trying to map that out, and if you want several new projects to roll out at once, you're talking about millions of dollars of investment all at once. So to ever get your CFO and get these projects approved, you need to map them out over time so you can start selling the formula, get some revenue rolling in. You can tool up the Formula carbon composite, get some revenue coming in, and continue to roll out new projects and new products as they financially make sense.
Right. And that's why the formula is growing. The line of the formula is growing. You can't come out with all these in one shot. You got to step your way into it.
Yeah, exactly. If somebody would give me $10 million and say, yeah, go build anything you want, yeah, we'd roll it all out at once, but that's not reality in our industry. If we were Nike, maybe we could do that, right? But these things kind of take time, and they need to be done in steps. And also just on a promotional level, you need to be able to promote everything you're doing, right? And you've seen the Formula television commercials and all these things. There's a process to them, so they all get the fair amount of spotlight that they deserve. And so people actually know about them, because if you roll out 10 products at once and you only have 2 commercials per Supercross and a limited advertising budget, there are going to be a lot of products that come out that people never even know about, right? And you're really just doing a disservice to your own brand because you're not even telling anybody about the great things that you just produced. Yeah,
you're almost just going too fast. You're speeding through the process a little bit. So I'm going to reveal something to you, and then I have a question. You sent me the catalog. I'm looking at it right now. Looks good. I like it. You showed me a rough catalog in Salt Lake City. Like that as well. Yeah. I got to admit, I seen this stuff before that. And I can't tell you where, but let me just tell you, I got moles in the building, and I've seen this stuff, okay? Now, that's going to lead to my question, and this goes back to the art side of things, because I know you guys are always a couple years in advance. And I guess I'll just ask this real quickly. Like, what are you guys working on now, like 23 or 24 stuff? Is it that far out?
So we're done with 22 for the most part.
Okay. So 21's going to come out here soon. You're done with 22. You're done with 22.
Yep.
How far along are you on 23?
The design team will be working on 23 right now.
Oh
so
my gosh.
They have a pretty long window where they can, because a big part of their process is they need to go out and see what things are trending.
Right,
And
which
then,
is still a gamble, right?
Yeah. So they'll go to outside of our industry shows, and they'll collect a whole wide range of information, and then they'll start narrowing down to what makes sense for us. And it's a really long process on their end. And they'll probably bring somewhere in the range of 75 to 100 possibilities at our first meeting, right? And they'll say, okay, this is everything that we think could work somewhere. And we have to end up with 8. That's the magic number. You want to end up with 8.
Wow.
And to go from, let's say this past year it was 81, to go from 81 to 8, that's a lot of meeting time, right? And
is there feelings getting hurt along the way a little?
Yes, there are, because you never know which designs that the design team are really favoring. And sometimes you know, in the early meetings, you're just slashing stuff. You're like, nope. And that's the only way you can get down to like 20, where it's going to really get serious. And if you immediately slash one of their favorites, it's like a bomb went off in the building, you know, like and they'll push back, like, which they should fight for their designs. But there's always, and I think that's in any industry or any company, there's a very big push pull between design and sales, because sales guys want to do what works and what they know is going to be immediately successful, and there's not a lot of risk in.
Right.
That's where we always resort to. The design team,
they want to innovate, right? They want to
chances.
They want to gamble.
They want to be on the front end of it, and if it doesn't work, so what? They're on to the next project anyway, right? They don't have to deal with all the back end issues that the sales team does. And if the line doesn't work, then you obviously have a down year, and then you have this big closeout problem. So none of that sounds like a good time.
No.
We want to stay in this safe little box. And so there's definitely a big compromise that goes on between sales and design, of finding things that are going to keep the design team inspired, but also are going to ensure that even if the line is not just, you don't love everything about it, there are some home runs in there that we can go in. And the conversation that I and our sales team have to have is, we go into a dealer, and if a dealer's on the smaller side, they're going to go with stuff that they know is going to work. They don't want to take huge chances. They're
not going to gamble. The stuff's got to move, right?
Yep. They want to go safe. They want to go stuff that appeals to people quickly, and that people are going to move and turn very, very quickly, and then they can reorder. Your bigger dealers, your online guys, yeah, sure, they'll take some chances on some really out in the left field stuff. But that's a big gamble to take for the sales side. And yeah, I think that's why you see, why you see brands do so many limited edition runs and some of your special edition things, is because it does allow for us to be creative and really express ourselves without putting the entire line in jeopardy, or putting an entire, fiscal year in jeopardy.
Right.
But yeah, it's a delicate process, and no matter what, you're going to offend somebody. I'm no different, right? Sometimes I'll have a design that I absolutely love, and it doesn't make the cut. But I also have to keep in perspective that the design team, we're cutting out a lot of their work, right? To get down to 81 designs, they love all 81, or else they wouldn't have submitted them.
Yeah.
So we just slashed, 70 plus designs that they would have gone to market with.
Yeah.
So yeah, everybody's got to kind of check their ego at the door and try to work together as a team.
Okay, so I think Thor's a good company. I think they got good looking gear. I'm not going to hold everything again. I think they're great. But who let the cat gear get through? Sorry, I just got to ask, man. Who let the cat gear through? Who didn't axe that one?
So it's funny. I think there were a lot of people that were, it was curious, right? It was so different.
It was.
But then if you ask the Thor guys about it, they said that they sold all of it. So on their end, it was a huge success. And anytime you sell everything that you make of a certain line, good for you. It's not my place to criticize or have an opinion of the things that they do. I can honestly say that I probably would have pushed back very hard on our team of doing that. But I'm also very image conscious, right? And I don't believe that particular line of gear was the right image for fly racing right now.
Right. It's got to fit your brand too, right?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Right. At the same time, though, dollars at the end of the day, that's a good thing. So if it was successful, then kudos to them for taking a big chance. I can just honestly say, without BSing you, that I would have never, and I'm not the end all be all say, right? But I would have pushed back and smashed my fist into the table over and over and over until it didn't happen.
Okay. Well, I would have been right there with you. If that ever comes up and you need some support, give me a call. I'll fly up there and I'll pound tables too. No cat gear. So with this Formula helmet, now I'm seeing 3 different designs. You've got the helmets from last year because Evan has the red, the Formula Carbon Vector helmet.
Yeah.
But now you have this new design of it looks like the Axon. Is that,
Yep.
am I saying that right?
Yeah, you got it.
Okay,
Yep.
And then the CC. So my question is, when it comes to the design, you're talking a year or 2 ago, this was obviously being planned. Why design the Axon helmets this way and the CCs this way? Like, how does that decision get made? Because you obviously like them. You're going to print with these things, but why choose certain looks for certain different models of the Formula?
You know what? A lot of times it's a very similar process to the gear. We'll get maybe it's a few less, maybe it's 40 or 50 helmet graphics, and we'll narrow that down to say 4 or 5. Because you work in the Formula helmet, you work in the Formula CC, you'll have your kinetic helmets, you'll have the kinetic. Kinetic always gets 2 graphics. So you start narrowing those down, and there's really no rhyme or reason to it. We try to apply common themes, and we think about, okay, how are we going to market these? We really saw an opportunity with the Formula CC to align it with the light gear, because the light gear is all new.
That's what it looks like. Yep.
Yeah, so those two kind of go together, and we'll market those together quite a bit and really go for that head-to-toe look. But yeah, there's no just hard approach to it where it's like we had to have this for this certain helmet. We try to make sense of it and say, okay, your Formula customer is a premium level. It's an expensive product. They're going to be very fashion conscious a lot of times. Sometimes they're just going to be safety conscious, but a lot of times that customer is fashion conscious. They have every accessory for their bike.
Or both. If you're going to spend that much for a helmet, you probably want to be safe and look good. So I'm assuming that customer needs it to nail all the way across the board, right?
Yep. And so you really want to put your best foot forward with that graphic. You want to throw everything you have at it and say, hey, what's going to be the coolest helmet graphic we have? And that's generally where you see that graphic end up. But there's also one more factor to it, is with that Formula Axon being a full 12K carbon shell, which is very rare. Most brands use a 3K carbon, which is a very much narrower band, and it's cheaper when it really comes down to it. We wanted to showcase that. So when you look at the Axon, you'll see a lot of carbon being displayed, and that's on purpose. That's because that customer is buying full carbon for a reason, and they probably want to show the world that, look, I have a badass full carbon helmet.
Yeah, it's in the print on all of them. You can see, like, I'm zooming in right now on the different colors, and that theme is there. I mean, it's part of the design. So obviously it makes sense, like you said, you're wanting to show off, like, this is a high end, top dollar. I got the baddest mammer jammer, and it looks that way. Before I ask my next question, am I allowed to ask about certain colorways? Am I allowed to say?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I don't want to get you mad at me, but
no,
you guys, there's a lot of gray in the new lines, in all the different lines, and the accent colors that you have with the gray. I mean, who's the lead art dog guy when it comes to color? Because you've got these grays with these bright blues. I mean, gray it's a gray color. It's very solid, but you're using these accent colors that pop so hard. Who's the daddy over there deciding which accent colors to put with all this gray?
I mean, it really is a team effort. So the first round, which we were kind of talking about, is purely graphics. And
so that's just the graph. You don't even colorways yet. You're just wanting to know what
yet.
Okay.
Nope. You have several meetings and just hours and hours and hours of meetings on just the graphic. And once you've got your graphic lineup assembled, then you move to color. and then you go through a whole nother round of meetings over and over and over, and you start narrowing and narrowing and narrowing. And you always have to, there are a lot of factors, right? You think about, okay, our light line and which lines are we going to have racers in all the time? We need to make sure that we're conscious of things that, Blake Baggett and Zach Osborne and these riders are going to have the right colorways to wear so we can market it correctly. We need to make sure that they align with certain OEMs that, so like if you go into a Honda dealership, they're going to be like, oh, yep, well, we'll definitely take the red. We'll definitely, that's a big part of it too. So there are a lot of sales factors that have to be voiced, because if you just let the design team go nuts, that wouldn't be in their psyche at all. Right? They don't care about that. They would have tie-dye colorways and all kinds of things that, well, and they may be super on brand and on trend, which is totally fine. But motocross and supercross and power sports is its own ecosystem, and you have to have things that make sense and that will appeal to motorcycle people.
Right.
And that's a common conversation we have all the time. It's like, listen, nobody's telling you that that's not cool or doesn't look awesome. We're just telling you that a dealer is going to be very hesitant about putting that on their wall because it doesn't necessarily appeal to their customer.
Right.
So yeah, it's the same vein of conversation about the graphic. There's just no perfect answer. Nobody's ever leaving a meeting going, man, we got everything we wanted. That's just not how those meetings go. You just hope you're finding the right balance of risk versus appealing to a very neutral customer base, because you get parents, you get young people, you get grandparents buying, on the internet. You get people that have never even seen a dirt bike race before. They just want to go ride in their backyard, right? And maybe they just bought a TTR 125 and they're going to go putt around at Carnegie Off-Road Park, right?
Yep.
They don't care about racing. They just want something. Well, I got a blue TTR 125. I need some blue gear. What do you got?
Right.
There is that customer too. So it's a really delicate balance to combine all the different lines and make sure that every customer, every price point, there's something for that person. And again, like I said with before, that the limited edition stuff and the special edition stuff gives us that opportunity to really step out, and we buy it accordingly. So we're not super heavy, right? So if it does not, if it's not a home run, so what? We didn't buy thousands of them, right? We really limited our liability. We wanted to make a statement for the brand. We wanted to offer something different, but our complete success or failure as a company doesn't rely on this one colorway working or failing either.
Do you ever have the special edition stuff almost as a test for the future too, just to see what the people think and maybe open up a new door? Like you said, you could be a little bit more creative, you can gamble a little bit more. So do you ever go, well, let's just see, because this might open up a new door for maybe the light gear in 2 years, or do you ever use it as a little bit of a test run?
We do. And if you look at the line now, you'll see, the Kinetic Special Edition is pretty out there, right? It's got a little bit of I don't want to say a tie-dye look to it, but it's got a blend of a pink and a blue. Yep. And it's different. And then you can't see some of the limited edition stuff yet, but you'll see that theme kind of continue. And then you look at the light special edition, and it's a completely different graphic. It has a holographic logo to it, right? And it's a little bit different. So yeah, I wouldn't argue that. I do think it sometimes is a test case. And if we want to take a chance, it will give us some real life data that we can draw from. And maybe that is a direction we want to go down. Perfect example, right? So you go back to, you were talking about Cameron McAdoo. So Cameron McAdoo won the All-Star race for us in tie-dye fly racing limited edition gear at the Monster Cup. Yep. And that was a huge deal for us. He was literally the only fly racing rider that did anything all night. And there was a joke going around that, hey, we should just get rid of the pro support program. It's super expensive. We'll just do amateur support because those guys get on TV. And that was the running joke all week.
And then he won.
Exactly. So, but that tie-dye stuff was a huge hit. We sold out of it right away. So when you see that kind of tie-dye idea roll into the Kinetic line for 2021, which is a very, very pivotal component, right? If Kinetic doesn't do well, it's going to be very difficult to have a successful year.
Right.
And without that tie-dye success 5 years ago, I don't think there's any way you ever see that tie-dye-ish year make it to such an important line like Kinetic for 2021. So yeah, I do think there's something to it.
Main event moto.
Look good? Check. Protection? Check.
Fly Racing has had the gear game on lock for years, but the Formula helmet has taken Fly to another level. They didn't just make a high-quality helmet, they redefined the standard for the most important piece of safety equipment on a rider's body.
Use your head and protect your head. Run the Fly Formula helmet.
Then cover the rest of your body in Fly's Evolution and Kinetic gear lines.
Easy decision.
If you're a true Motohead, then motosport.com is your only choice when it comes to OEM or aftermarket parts for your bike. And when it comes to servicing your bike or giving it the punch you need to perform, it's EMT Racing. With motosport.com, you can get everything you need for your bike with great pricing and ridiculous speed on shipping. And with EMT, it's simple. Take your bike to the experts.
2020 is the year EMT takes over the performance world. If you don't know, now you know.
Your Bat Bros choose motosport.com and EMT Racing, and you should too. Motoheads, do you want to stand out on and off the track? Make sure to check out Viral Moto for your jersey lettering and apparel needs. That's viralmoto.com.
Because having a blank jersey is about as bad as Vincent's golf game.
And when it's time to get a screen printing project done for your business or personal use, you have one choice. It's screenprintingdone.com.
Neil is the man. You know those Main Event Moto sweatshirts you're wearing? Yeah, Neil at Screen Printing Done did those.
You know that sick new Viral Moto shirt you're wearing? Yeah, Neil did those too.
We like to look good. That's why we choose Viral Moto and ScreenPrintingDone.com.
All American Chevrolet in Killeen, Texas is a proud supporter of Main Event Moto and invites all the Motoheads to experience the difference for all of your Chevy sales and service needs. Mention Main Event Moto and get 50% off your next oil change and a front-end alignment at no charge. Remember, whether you're hauling your bikes to the weekend track, trail, or race, or commuting to the job that pays for your moto habit, we have the truck to get you there in style. Visit us online anytime at ChevyKilleen.com. That's all American Chevrolet of Killeen. Chevy, find new roads.
Main Event Moto Podcast.
Okay, my next question. This one's hard. You have Baggett, you have Osborne, you have Brayton, you had Josh Grant, and you could see that you guys were definitely putting yourself on different brands, right? You're making sure that your colorways are on a lot of different brands, so it's represented fully. But you also don't know who you're maybe going to have 2 to 3 years from now while you're working on new colorways for 2 to 3 years. Is that where you just got to fall back on making sure the brands get represented because you don't know exactly which... I mean, Brayton might... Who knows? He could be riding for 10 more. Who knows with that guy? And Osborne, too. But you also might not have any of those guys. You might be in a whole new generation of riders. So is it more brand... You cover your brands, then you actually look at the riders you have, since those kind of change too, almost on the same timeline?
The good thing is that the color is the last component. So we typically have pretty good insight as to directionally where we want to go or where we think we're going to be. If it was earlier in the process, it would be really tough. But,
right.
You know, for us, we finished colors. I got to think about this. It was during quarantine, so I'm gonna say late March. It's pretty fair. So for 2022, the racing season, or 2021 racing season, but the 2022 line, we knew who we're talking to. We knew who the possibilities were, and a lot of these guys are already locked in. So like we know that we have the Rocky Mountain KTM team for next season locked in. That's a done deal. We know we have Zach Osborne signed for next year. That's a done deal. So we can make some assumptions. Right. And then we're already in kind of preliminary talks, and we have a short list of guys who we are, whether they're teams or riders that we're going after. So we'll be a little bit mindful of that. But I think even more important of that, we really try to focus on the dealer side and the OEM side and make sure that we're not eliminating anybody. And if you're, let's say you're a KTM guy and you ride out of a KTM shop and you only ride KTMs, which is a large percentage of the off-road public these days, we have to look at the line and say, okay, number one, orange is a tough sell. That's just a fact, because if you aren't on a KTM, you probably aren't buying orange.
You can maybe get away with it on a Cowie. It seems like that's the one bike you can sort of get away with the orange.
Get away with it, but are you going to go spend your money on orange gear?
You're not going to. You're probably not going to choose it. I mean, even like right now, Evan's on a KTM and a Cowie, and his orange gear. He wears it sometimes, but it's definitely more of his KTM gear. It's not his first choice on his Cowie for sure.
Right. Right. And that's the most challenging part of it for us, is that we look at it and we say, okay, we have to have something for KTM guys. A subset of that, say 1A, orange is going to be last. We just know that going in, because you've narrowed down your customer base so much. It is it's a big market, but it's a niche market, because if you do blue gear, you appeal to lots of people. If you do red gear, you appeal to lots of people. If you do black gear, you appeal to even more people. If you do orange gear, you're only getting the KTM people. And you just know that going in, and you accept it. And when you see that it's last every single time in each line that you do it in, you just move past it because you knew it before it even happened. But at the same time, you can't ignore it. We have a lot of resources tied up into teams that are racing on KTMs, and we can't leave them out in the cold.
Right.
So it's just it's a compromise. It really is. And every time you see orange gear, we think it looks great, and there's nothing wrong with it. And in KTM shops, it sells really well, but it only typically sells to KTM customers. And that's just a fact.
And then, so you guys, obviously you'll look at that data and go, we got to have it. We got to satisfy that block, but we can't go orange dominant because there's just, the customers are going to go for the blue, the red, the black. That's your most generic colors that will go on every brand, no matter what. I'm looking right now at this light, this gray and blue, and I'm just, dude, it's so filthy. Like I said, because it's not even like a full gray. It's like it's like a weird tint of gray, and then this blue is not a normal blue. That's me personally. That's my favorite set. But okay, my next question. So with gear, you're innovating, but at the same time, it's hard to innovate on a pant and jersey because it's just a pant and jersey. You can only go so thin. You can go vent. You can do whatever you want. But I know you guys in the light and the kinetic pant made some big changes this year. What are those changes? And again, how complicated is it to make a change on a gear set that you guys have been running for a long time, and now you're going to make the moves that you did this year?
Yeah. So for just starting at the top, the Evo pant and the jersey are unchanged for 21, and that's not by mistake. We really felt like we took a huge step forward with 2020, and we just wanted to do a graphic change. And it kind of comes back to that same concept where you can't change everything in the same year.
Right.
So this year was an opportunity to really take steps forward in the light and the kinetic. And the light pant is really our most forward-thinking pant ever. And if you get a chance, there is no other way to really comprehend how different this pant is until you try it on. And immediately you're going to notice that there is no more zipper on this pant.
Yep.
It's completely zipperless, right? So some people are going to look at that and go, what? Like, how do you even get it on? But it's no different than like gym shorts. How do you get gym shorts on? You just slide them on.
You don't zip them up.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same concept, right? So that's the beauty of stretch materials and also the BOA closure system, because you have the stretchability to be able to expand the pant and pull them on, but then you have this revolutionary and exclusive closure system to tighten that fit down and get it tight enough to where the stretch doesn't matter anymore.
Right.
And so it was one, and honestly, I'll be very transparent with you guys and tell you, I was one that pushed hardest back on this because
why?
I loved the old white pant. I loved the 2020 white pant, and it's what all our guys wanted to race in. And it was very popular in the marketplace. And everybody that you talk to, they were like, oh man, Fly's come a long way. They would reference that white line.
Right.
And I didn't want to screw it up. I was so scared of going backwards. So I was the one that like, hey, we need to test it, and I'm not sold yet, and this and that. And it didn't get into an argument, but it got pretty testy. It's because I was just like, hey, we're not ready, and I'm putting my foot down on this. And the lead designer on the pant he believed in it so much, and he's just like, okay, let's make a deal. You're drawing a hard line, and I am too, because I'm all in on this. go ride in this pant today. And we're very fortunate. We have a track at our office. Go ride today. I'll give you the test pant. And if you don't like it and you don't think it's better, then we'll go a different direction. We'll make this into a limited edition pant, or we'll do something where it's not exposing us. And I'm like, that's fair. That's a reasonable answer.
And is your designer like a writer? Like, does he even know, or is he just that confident that you were going to go out and like it?
Well, he rides, but he takes all the feedback. Like, we had sent it off, like Chris Kiefer had tested it, and we had
so he got enough positive response that he was like, go JT, put it on, and everyone's saying it's great, give it a shot. And you did.
And that was a fair deal. I said, and I'll be 100% honest, because at the end of the day, my job and our goal is to improve the line. So if it's better, I'm not gonna hold back out of pride. I just want to make sure that we're doing the right thing.
Right.
So we made a deal, and everybody agreed that was in the room. And I went out and I rode in the pant, and I'm going to say 5 laps, something like that. And I rode the bike to the door that's closest to design. And I went into the design room and ran around with high-fiving people, because they had knocked it out of the park. The pant was so much better because it was a complete overhaul. It was new stretch panels, a completely new stretch material throughout, all new, a completely different blend of stretch material, zipperless entry. I mean, the thing is completely rethought, and that's what I was most scared of. Was like, hey, let's make some step changes here, right? Let's change one thing, and in 22 we'll change another, and by 23 we'll have this completely different product. Because I was scared of one of the components failing, and then you have a product that completely fails. If one piece fails, it all fails. But I give them so much credit, and they got it right. And I had to eat crow, but I've never been so happy to eat crow in my life, was because this pant is so much better. And I can honestly say it's the most progressive and highest performing pant in motocross, period.
Okay.
I have no qualms in saying that.
So you had to test it out yourself to be proven, to give it the final okay. So sort of on the lines with the Thor Cat gear, let's go back to the 08, 09 Honda 450. Would you have allowed the 09 to come to market?
Hey, there's a funny story about that. So end of 08.
I got to hear this, man, because the 08, dude, the 08 was a monster.
Yep.
And
so
what the hell happened?
I love that bike, right? So good. And so I got this deal to go to race in Sweden September.
Gothenburg. Yes. I was there.
But it was on a Suzuki, and I'd never raced a Suzuki before, but it was a lot of money, and it was Nico Izzy's deal, and he bailed at the last minute. So Jim Hawley, who obviously we both know, called me and said, hey, I've got this deal. Suzuki's got it's all I have is a Suzuki, but it's a lot more money than the other guys are getting. So are you willing to do it? And I'm like, well, Jim, I've always been a fan of money. And so I think I'm in. Yeah, I think I'm in. And so I'm there, and like I really wasn't taking the race seriously. Like, I had no parts. I brought handlebars.
Right.
I had nothing, and a good result was going to be very unlikely. So I tried to take it as lightly as I could, and just kind of enjoy the weekend. I was making really good money. But anyway, like, if you'll remember, we like rode through town on our bikes.
Oh, yeah.
Had, this big parade and all that stuff.
Was Hanny there? Or was that the next year?
He may have been.
Hanny, I think, with the year with Andrew Short?
Yeah, Shorty was always there because he was the big Honda guy.
Yeah, okay. But I remember.
So anyway, Shorty's there, and I knew we were in the midst, our team, which was Butler Brothers MX at the time, we were in the midst of trying to decide whether we were going to ride Hondas or Suzukis for the 09 season. And as the kind of team captain, it was my call. Forrest basically said, hey, I'm relying on you to get results, and you got to make the call because it's going to come back on you. If you don't get results, I don't want to hear about the wrong bike.
Yep.
So I'm like, fair enough. I appreciate the ability to make the call. So I'm just hammering Andrew about this 09 Honda. Like, is it better? Is it worse? What's different? Because we didn't get to ride them. Like, we were kind of going in blind. And he's like, no, man, it's so good. Like, it turns so much better. And I really think that it's the right move. Like, this bike is a step forward. And I'm like, okay, that's good enough for me. And I still I still get mad at him when I see him to this day because he sent me down the wrong road. And it wasn't like he just steered me in the wrong direction. It was like he put 4 outboard engines on the back of me and then hyper drove me down the wrong direction. Because that bike, the 09 Suzuki was amazing and the 09 Honda was a complete turd. And it ruined my whole season. I mean, that bike ruined my whole year.
Dude, so. I rode the 08 at home locally all the way until 12 because the 9, the 10, it got a little better, but it was so backwards, dude. I just couldn't.
Well,
it was,
so I asked
it was
Andrew,
scary to ride.
Andrew, I'm like, why would you ever tell me that bike was good? And he's like, well, I had a different swing arm and I had these braces and I had this different front end setup that would raise the front so it wasn't so stink bug. And I'm like, why didn't you tell me any of that? Like, you could have just told me it needed a lot of work and it would have required a lot of parts that I didn't have access to. I'm like, oh man, yeah. So
in other words, JT wouldn't have let that bike get out the door.
I don't know who did. You know what? I can appreciate innovation, but that was just a misfire. Period.
Hey, to get it right, you got to get it wrong a bunch of times too. Hey, Fly got it wrong in the beginning. Eric Nye won Loretta Lynn's in what has to be one of the worst looking set of fly gear I've ever seen in my life. So you guys got it wrong too in the beginning. It takes some misses before you get it right. So that's fair. What's the deal with the kinetic pant? There's a different there too. I know the light. That's the one I'm looking at now, but I'm moving up to the catalog to the kinetic. What's the difference with the kinetic pant?
So kinetic is it's kind of the workhorse of the line. You know, you're stepping down in price, which is obviously going to expand the offering to customers, right? It's going to appeal to more customers just because it's more affordable.
Yep.
So you need to really make sure that you get the kinetic pant right. And that can work in 2 ways. It can paralyze you in fear because you don't want to take a step backwards. And anytime you change anything, there's always a risk of going backwards.
Right.
That kind of feeds off of the conversation we just had. But to keep moving forward, we needed to take some of the tried and true things that we knew would work and start applying them. And the first one was this new stretch panel material that we have been using. And we used it on the 2020 Evo pant, and we had great success. It's much lighter, and it actually just allows a much more freedom of movement. So that was one thing we knew we could apply, and we had a great track record from a whole season of use. That was kind of an easy move that would both modernize the pant and also lighten the pant. Secondly, we wanted to try to innovate the closure systems. Now, we don't put the BOA system on it, and that's just on a pure cost level. We really can't afford to and keep the cost down in this pant. But we felt like there had to be a better way than just the standard side Velcro strap that every brand has used for 25 years. And basically all it is just one Velcro strap that just kind of cinches one side down.
That eventually doesn't even stick anymore right?
And it's just a very just kind of elementary way to do it. It's not modern. Velcro is not premium in any way. So we wanted to try to take at least that same concept and improve it and take it to the next level and make it the best we could. So it was kind of born out of the BOA closure system idea. But that Velcro strap, instead of just being one side, there's 2 of them now. And so you have a double-sided Velcro strap, but that strap actually connects through the back of the pant. So instead of just pulling one side down, you have this true belt system that connects, and it tightens through the back of the pant, and you get a really true tightening versus just cinching down one side. You can actually feel it tighten through the back. Very similar to how a BOA closure system works, just not obviously to maybe that extent or that level of premium, but it certainly is much, much better than anything else is in that mid-level price point.
Right. Okay. So just some improvements that didn't change what that gear set is meant to be price-wise, everything. Does that make it harder sometimes to innovate for those lines because you don't have like the freedom to spend more on certain things?
Yeah,
do you feel trapped sometimes with those lines?
Yeah, you're always battling cost. I mean, everything is all about cost when you go to the mid price point and the entry level price point. There are always innovations you could introduce. You could put BOA on it. You could go to a 4-way stretch material. There's lots of things you could do, but then yeah, you are way out of your cost boundary. So it's always a compromise of how can we make the best possible product, but also make sure that we're not going to go broke in the process.
Right.
So that's the cool thing about 2021 is I felt like we already had the best mid-level price point in the market. I was pretty sure of that. Now going into 2021, I don't even have to think about it. I know for a fact that anybody who wants to compete in the mid-level price point, they're going to be competing with an inferior product.
Right. So you've stepped that product up enough to know you already knew the price point was good, but now the improvements, it's like, look, good luck competing with this thing on quality and price at the same time. Because usually you got to pick one or the other, right?
Right. Well, and it was just one of those things where you could go and get into an argument and somebody could say, well, we do this better, we do that better. And overall, I felt like we were still winning. But now it's not even really a competition, and it's probably a conversation that competitors would just likely avoid because they know that they don't want to get into that conversation.
Right. That's how you do it, right? You got to checkmate them. So,
yep.
Okay, next question. This is going to be a harder one, but I know you're up for the challenge of the answer. I rode for Scott back in the day. I don't even remember the year, but I wore their gear head to toe. Maybe not the boot. I think just pant or whatever. And Scott introduced their gear. I mean, it's in Europe, whatever. They bring it to the American market. And what I had heard is that it ruffled a lot of feathers because Western and Tucker and Parts and everyone's like, look, we have our gear lines. We love your goggles. And now you're introducing this gear line. That really interferes with what we do. And I can only imagine that makes negotiations tough for Scott across the board. Same thing with Alpine Star. They're a boot company, but now they have gear on a lot of riders, but they don't really sell it all the way. So there's always this kind of like, don't step on our toes, we'll work together kind of thing. You guys made a big step up, though, in the goggle for 2021, which is Fly has been a pant jersey glove company. That's what they've been known for a long time. You took the gamble on the helmet. It paid off. Is that why you take the gamble on the goggle market, or is this just increasing the quality of the line all around? I mean, because again, back to what Scott did and what Alpine Star did, it's risky to kind of step out of your lane, but you guys stepped it up with a better goggle this year.
Yeah, so just a little background. Bob Lowry, who kind of taught me everything that I know about this industry, he was at Scott USA for 16 years. So going back for like 1994 until the end of 2009, he ran the Moto side for Scott Goggles. So his insight and the ability to understand the market and how to develop a product and bring it to market, he is kind of unmatched out there. There are only a couple other guys in the industry that I would say, yeah, they could have a conversation as equals. You know, there just aren't a lot of people out there like that. So he came over to Fly Racing January 1 of 2010, and he's still there today. And his role has changed a little bit. You know, he's kind of let us take the reins. But when it came to developing a premium goggle, he was always of the mindset that, like, hey, we need to raise the brand to where there's an expectation and an acceptance that Fly Racing is a premium level brand. And if we bring a premium level goggle to market, it will be accepted and people will just say, yeah, we're ready for that. That makes sense as far as your lineup. And that's been a long process for us to get to. So it's been a couple years where we really felt like we were ready to take the step. But then you start that process, just like a Formula helmet or an FR5 boot or whatever. It's a multi-year process to develop a product and refine it and improve it and get it really to the point where you're ready to go all in and compete with, you know, goggle specific companies and put it on athletes and run advertisements on it, because the biggest, you know, no you could ever do is launch a product before it's ready and have the product fail
and just
or
lay
have
an
it not
egg,
accepted.
right?
And you just fail and you have this whole concept and this whole segment that is now considered a failure. So we've been really careful and really patient as far as our entrance and our, you know, kind of here we are as far as getting into that segment. And, you know, we're still working towards that, right? We just got our full goggle laminates approved and ready to roll out. The last step of that process kind of arrived for this 2021 line was a thermoform foam. And that's a big word, and a lot of people don't know what that means.
You're going to have to explain that one, dude.
Yeah. A year or two ago, I wouldn't have known what that meant, right? But what it is if you put a pair of goggles on your face, right, the foam is all kind of uniform and there are hard lines all around it. Well, that doesn't create a great feel because your face is not square. Your face has contour and every face is different and lines and the way your eyes are placed on your head. Every face is going to work a little bit differently. Well, what thermoform foam is it's a tapering of that foam. And basically the way they form the foam, it's a heat process and it's tapered to fit your face. So on the sides of the foam, most notably, and then on the nose area, it's got a tapering that's built to fit a human face. So it's going to create a much nicer seal around your nose area. And on the sides of your face, you're going to feel much less pressure because you don't just have this square block of foam sitting there. You actually have this really nice tapered foam that's built to fit a human face. So it was kind of that last minute detail that's honestly, it's really expensive for us to do. But if you really want to offer the best of the best and go compete with these legacy goggle companies, then you have to have the product to go with it. And we finally feel like we've crossed that bridge for the 2021 Zone Pro goggle.
In general, the Fly line, you told me, I think it was last year. I think it was maybe it was 19 or 20. I forget the year, but I remember saying, dude, I love this new line of gear. And you were like, oh, I don't like that one. How often are you? Because I know you're steady. Like you're pretty steady. You keep it even keeled. How often, I guess, in a launch each year, are you super stoked? Like, let's go, drop this stuff. And then how often are you like, oh man, I'm a little nervous. I hope this line or this colorway does well. I mean, again, you're even keel, but how much do you fluctuate on your own emotions when you're about to drop a line for a new year?
So to be honest, going back to the 2017 line, which would have come out in the summer of 2016, none of the sales team liked the line. And when I say we didn't like it, that's being nice. And that was a pretty fundamental moment in as far as change for us, because leading up to that, there was a very hard line drawn between sales and design and cooperation and collaboration. And it was kind of a hands-off policy. Basically, design created the line from start to finish, handed it off to sales and said, go sell it and go do your side. Right. And we did not like that process at all. And we were very vocal about not liking that process. But when the brand is growing and growing and growing and sales numbers continue to go up, there isn't much impetus for change. And it's a really hard conversation to have when you want to change everything, right? You want to say, this isn't working. This process is incorrect. And we need to make a complete reversal about how we go about this. Well, that 2017 line, we didn't like it. I didn't like it. I did my job. I promoted it. We sold it. But I didn't like really anything in it. I didn't like the graphics. I didn't like the colors. I didn't think it made any sense. It didn't appeal to any OEMs. The teams had a difficult time. Like, we really battled teams to get it approved because it didn't really work with what their image was. There were just so many things about it that didn't work. And at the end of the year, it was our first down year since 2004.
Really?
The first year that we didn't improve sales year over year since 2004. And that was all we needed. That was the only ammunition we needed to go in and say, hey, everybody's trying hard. No one's fault. But when you go into a new line and no one's excited on the sales side, that's a problem. Right. We should never, ever have that happen. And the only reason it happened is because we had no input, and there were really big flaws in the line that we could have fixed, right? But we weren't allowed to see it. We didn't have input, and we just had this, here you go with the catalog, go sell it. And we were all looking at each other like, how? Oh. How do we go sell this, right? So yeah, it's looking back, we're 4 years removed. It was absolutely necessary to get us here.
A good thing. I mean, a step backwards to make huge steps forward, not just in the look, but just the process on how you do things.
Yeah. And at the time, man, we were so bummed. I remember just being so disappointed with and I don't know if you remember, but I did this 125 race at Washougal, and it was kind of the launch weekend. And I remember trying to choose my gear to get built for that race. And I was like, I don't like any of this. And that sucks. A brand that I truly love, right? I'm so close to it, emotionally invested in, and you can't find anything that you really like. That sucks. That's not a place that you'd ever want to be in.
Right.
Just from experience, I can tell you. So yeah, you're right. One huge step back. Well, I'm not going to say huge step, but one step backwards in sales to allow this huge growth process that we are in such a better place as a team collectively. You never really know, how a negative can turn into a positive, but that one absolutely did.
Last question, and it's going to go in two directions. Fly obviously chooses their riders the way they do. You've got, like I said, Josh Grant, you had Brayton. You get these photogenic guys that just always look cool. For one, you guys obviously got that part figured out. Grant, anyways, it's like you can't take a bad photo of that guy.
Yep. Yep.
But you have this certain type of guy. You have Baggett, Brayton. You cover the bases, but they're always these like really good dudes. Even going back to Trey, Andrew Short, just these like very positive guys. Is that part of just Fly's branding, is you're going after that type of a guy? Because it seems like you have like that type of guy figured out of who you want to represent you.
Yeah, and I think that comes from the top down. Craig and Dina Shoemaker are the owners of Western Power Sports and obviously the parent company of Fly Racing. They are very strong in their beliefs. It's a Christian-based company, and if they're going to devote resources, and these athletes are expensive to support and advertise and promote, they want to be associated with a certain character level of person, and that they didn't make no bones about that. We've had fallings out. We sponsored Tyler Evans at one time, and may he rest in peace, but it didn't work out, and we made a split from him just because it was a different approach, right? The direction of our brand versus the direction of his marketing were different. And I think that's a pretty consistent approach we've had. And really what it comes down to is Craig will kind of survey the landscape and say, okay, these are the guys that I truly believe fall in line with my beliefs and my values, and guys that I can wholeheartedly spend a lot of money to support. And I believe they're always going to represent us well. And that goes a long way. Whether it's always going to grab you the most headlines, maybe not. But I think deep down, our team as a whole, including Craig and his wife, Dina, they want to be invested in people that they truly believe in, and they can always count on to represent them in the best light possible. And we have arguments sometimes like, hey, we got to step out. We got to get guys that are just have a different attitude and this and that. And sometimes we reach them, and sometimes we don't. But I think our biggest investments are always guys that you see like the Zach Osborne and Justin Brayton and Trey Kennard and Andrew Short. And I think there's a consistent theme there for a reason. That's it's pretty easy to see.
Especially the guys now. You're talking dads, right? Like Brayton, he's a dad. He shows it every day on his Instagram. Blake Baggett is just all about his kid. Everything's about his kid. Osborne, same. And then even Josh Grant. When you had Josh Grant, he was dad Josh Grant, not young kid Josh Grant.
Right.
But you did have J-Law though back in the day, didn't you?
Yeah. And that was a time where I think they were really trying to sort out what was the right direction, right? They had J-Law, they had Tyler Evans, they sponsored David Villeman when he was pretty outspoken. They were really searching for what's the right path. But I think they really found like, hey, if we stick to our convictions and we really go down the path of where we think we're doing it the right way, we feel people are going to relate to that, and they're going to respect that, and they're going to spend their hard-earned dollars with companies that they think are doing it the right way as well.
Right.
And I give our company a lot of credit. They've really stuck to their guns, where it would be easy sometimes to really step out and take some big chances or go down a path that's really trendy. And I've seen them push back against that and say, nope, we're always going to try to be reflected in the best light. And if there's a decision to be made, what's the right thing to do? Not always the most profitable, what's the right thing to do? And that's always been the decision that's made.
Stay true to the brand before you take a gamble and brand yourself outside of your image. So
yeah,
that makes sense.
I think they've always felt if they do it the right way and they appeal to people's principles and their values, and that customers are going to want to do business with them, and then the business and the dollars will come later.
Okay, so those are the riders. Now let's go inside the building, because I will tell you right now, I'm 37, turning 38. Some of the funnest, happiest, laughing, just wildest, funnest times I've ever had in my life were with Cole Siebler and Jeff Northrup. And you have Cole Siebler and Jeff Northrup. I mean, is there a theme? Is that part of just the inside chemistry and the sales? Those are two of the funnest human beings I've ever been with in my entire life. They're like long lost brothers as far as their personalities. Mm-hmm. What's up with Cole Siebler and Jeff Northrup being part of the inner circle? Because dude, those two they're unreal. My life and stories with them have been the funnest I've ever had.
I know. I've been right along there with you, but I really think both of them have just kind of matured. And yeah, we were all kids, right? And we were all running around and flying around the world, racing all over the place and doing silly stuff and making, bad decisions once upon a time. But really working alongside those guys every day, we really all believe in this brand, and we are absolutely dedicated to it. And you really look at the hours and you're working on the weekends, you're going to Supercrosses, and all the time spent and dedicated to this brand. It's because we love it.
Yeah.
It's not about the paycheck, and it's not about anything other than we believe in what we're doing. And I think both Cole and Jeff Northrup have matured while they've been there. And I can remember, for Cole especially, I remember going to Terry Basil, who hired me, and telling him, I said, hey, we need to get Cole Siebler on board, because I know what he's capable of.
So likable.
Yes, he's got to calm down a little bit. Yeah, he's still going through, he's racing, and when you're racing, everything's about fun. But I know what his potential is. And to see where that went from, and I credit myself with getting him hired, because I just kept pushing for it. And to see him now in a national sales manager role, and he's just absolutely crushing it, I'm proud of that. I'm proud of him. And I'm proud of the learning that he did and the team that we comprise. I think we're really onto something. So that's part of the perspective too, is we got to go do all these crazy things and see markets all over the world and visit all these crazy countries and races and work with teams and see, we have such a wide perspective versus a lot of the industry, because we've been on the other side of the fence globally. And once you mature, and you're able to incorporate the knowledge that you gained all those years ago, plus this new side of the business that we're still learning every day. I think that makes a pretty formidable team to go up against.
Yeah, without doubt. And again, just as long as Jeff Northrup and Cole Siebler keep their personalities, you're good, because they're like two of the best, the most positive, best, funny people I've ever dealt with in my life.
I mean, after a Supercross race, when we're at the hotel bar, I mean, we break out the stories and have a good time, but when it's time to go to work, it's time to go to work, right?
That's awesome.
And I think that comes with maturity too, is learning when those times are.
Well, JT, thanks for coming on the show finally. Tell Steve I apologize, stole you for a night. But hey, you don't have every night of the week to do right now, because there is no every night right now. What? Before we let you go, last 20 seconds. Last I heard was the 15th of August, maybe at Loretta's being the first one. Have you heard anything past that?
That's the last I heard too. Loretta's will end Saturday, and then the first national would be the following Saturday. That's the last rumor I heard. But I think that's what they're really pushing for.
Oh man, I hope it happens. I mean, obviously you guys too. You got to get those guys represented out there. So
I think Loretta's getting done is a huge priority financially, and then I think they'll get the outdoors rolling, but this Loretta's is such a far-reaching program nationally. I think that's got all of their attention and priority right now.
Well, fingers crossed, and then we can get back to Pulp Fantasy, which I don't play no more because it's torturing to me, because I'm too competitive like you, and I just get mad. Well, I mean, I'll try, but after 3 rounds, when I'm in 8700th place...
Hey, it sucks to suck.
It does suck to suck. It sucks when you look at your. It sucks because you do start building animosity towards riders, and you and I are in the same boat. We have to keep control of what we say because we both are on microphones, and it'd be really hard when I'm on the podium with someone. I'm like, hey, how about last week, ass white?
Yeah, great job.
Hey, good job.
A perfect example. The last race of the season, Baggett and Bloss both they didn't mail it in, but they both had bad results. Cost me probably about $1,000 in fantasy.
Oh,
yep. But hey, don't worry. Baggett maxed out the weekend before, and you didn't have him. Tickle maxed out at the final. So yeah, don't worry about any of that. No big deal. Totally fine. I wasn't upset at all.
Oh, I'm sure you weren't. Well, JT, thanks for coming on again, and I will be making my order for the 2021 gear. I already have it picked out and written down now that I have the official catalog. I already have part numbers ready. It's in the draft box for you and Max. I will be sending that email out the day it's ready, and Evan needs his new gear. He's fired up, and you'll see the theme we're going with color-wise this year. I always ask you about colors because we go with the theme. Evan's doing a little change-up for the old theme.
You got to keep everybody guessing.
I know he's got his little look, but his look's going to change a little bit now that he's on the Cowie 85 full time. So
when he's got that head shake going, you got to make sure you look good.
He'll let you know. He'll let you know what went wrong.
Hey, when the results aren't good, you got come up with something. I like the head shake. I haven't heard head shake as a problem where the race went wrong in a while.
Hey, you know the best part is when we first got the bike, we got the suspension done, DRS suspension, Race Tech, they do it all. And Robbie from DRS said, "Hey, it's all brand new and tight. It's going to be a little stiff. You got to get a few hours into this thing." So he starts on it, and it's got head shake right away because it's just stiff, and he's little. He just got on an 85. He's super tiny, and he didn't even know what it was. But he's like, the bars are shaking. I said, "That's head shake." Well, this last weekend he raced 3 different days. He never mentioned head shake one time until he did his race report, and it was the first thing he said. And I'm like, you never even say anything about this. He's like, well, it did happen once. And I said, well, then why would you come right out swinging with a big excuse like head shake? He's like, you told me to just say what happened, and it's the first thing I thought of. And I said, all right, well, you're gonna be just like the rest of them when you get older.
Take it easy, mini dad.
I know. And again, thanks for coming on, JT. I love the new gear, and I will never reveal the mole that I have inside the building because I see this stuff way early. So take that.
I'm gonna have to start tapping phones.
Nah, you'll never figure it out. I got someone out there. Right. I got someone out there. All right, thanks for coming on, bro. I'll talk to you soon.
See ya.
Later.
Main event motor. Screw it. You know it by now.